I'm like Henry Messenger, riding like a passenger, carrying packages, moving like a messenger. On the street.
So a guy recently made a video about me. He kind of went through one of my infields and then just kind of analysed it and pretty much roasted the shit out of me, which is quite funny. I find it pretty funny. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of react to the points that were being made. This video isn't about like, you know, making drama or bitching about each other, nothing like that. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's really just to kind of, just analyse some of the points that were made. You know, some of the points that were made were actually good points, whereas others I'm not too sure about. You know, I disagree with some of the points. So yeah, this is just about a bit of analysis on that. But yeah, just to preface it, you know, I'm completely open to criticism. You know, I'm not perfect, never claim to be. I'm always learning, just like everyone else. And you know, with this stuff, because it's obviously dealing with social dynamics, you know, there's always going to be an evolution in terms of how you go about doing it. You know, if you look at yourself from like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, there's going to be changes. You know, people change, people learn, people adapt. There's always an evolution with this stuff. So it's good to kind of self-analyze and you know, critique oneself, I would say. But yeah, like I say, this video is going to be about really focusing on like the actual points that are actually being made, I guess the more technical stuff, not really talking about like the hysteria. So I'm not going to mention the guy's name because like I said, I don't want it to be like a drama fest and like just bitching about each other. He's obviously mentioning my name, and he's also done it to other people. Probably to raise his own exposure, raise his own profile. But in my opinion, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to get like involved in that kind of thing. I really just want to analyse the points that were being made. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm coming from. And yeah, like I said before, you know, I'm not immune to criticism. Don't take this as like I'm butthurt about it or anything like that. I'm actually glad about this because it's actually cool to do this kind of video. It's actually a good video idea to kind of look back at your stuff and think of ways you can improve and think of you know, the good stuff, the bad stuff, and just what can be done better, that kind of thing. So yeah, and it's just interesting. So I might actually do more of these kinds of videos in the future as well.
There he is. That's Covent Garden, isn't it? Covent Garden, and Ed Game is chatting to some Indian woman. Is that an Indian?
Hi. I thought I would just say...
It's South American woman.
Hi, be a bit spontaneous. What's your name?
Lucia.
Lucia? Ahmed, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You look like kind of like South American or something.
I'm Argentinian.
Argentina?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say either that or Spanish or something.
But, yeah.
So you're Latina? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so look, who the fuck am I to criticize or whatever? I'm trying to find some amusement here. But, you know, actually, I think he's doing all right. You know, he cold red. She looks Latino. And she's looking at him. She's looking at him a bit weird. And my initial impression, 1 minute in, after the lens flare at the beginning, is that she has absolutely no attraction for this guy whatsoever. But that doesn't, you know, well, it does matter actually. That's the only thing that matters. But what he's going to do is, I'm guessing he's going to plough on for the purpose of the infield.
So yeah, that's actually true. She didn't really have much attraction for me at the beginning. But to be honest, that's actually really normal in a lot of cases. You know, if you approach a girl, especially in a place like London, she's not going to give you that much at the beginning. And so therefore, you know, what you're trying to do is open her up a bit, you know, see if you can get some kind of not really a reaction, but just kind of spike her emotions a little bit later on in the conversation. It's normal for her to give you a bit of a slightly weird look at the beginning. You know, you can't expect girls to be like, you know, smiling, beaming eyes at you at the beginning in every interaction, or you know, or just only focusing on those ones, because reality is, you know, most reactions are probably going to be something similar to this. So it's just a case of just ploughing on a little bit. If she's clearly not interested, or clearly not up for having a conversation, or clearly showing signals of disinterest, then yeah, leave it. But sometimes it's definitely worth just ploughing on a bit, especially at the beginning, just grinding it out a bit until you're sure that there's no interest in whatsoever, and then leaving it. It's just basic stuff, you know.
If you look at the proximity of her to the camera, he's got some sort of device on his shirt, so he must be about 1.5 to 2 feet away. Good, you know, that's great. That's great, because what most day gamers do is they stand about 8 foot away. Not 8, 3, 4, 5. No chance of any sexual tension. There's a couple of things that I would have done differently already. I would have tried to touch her within the first minute. I would have tried to get onto her, you know. I would have.
So this is something that I disagree with. Like, you don't need to touch a girl at the beginning, or actually at any point in the initial interaction. In my opinion, it doesn't do anything. It's not like you touch the girl and all of a sudden like, oh, I'm so attracted to him now. It doesn't work like that. You know, what you're trying to do in the beginning is establish a certain connection with the girl so that she's her emotions are somewhat spiked, but at the same time she feels comfortable in your presence. So like, she thinks you're a cool, interesting, potentially funny guy and charismatic and attractive, but at the same time she's comfortable in your presence because obviously you're a stranger, and physically you're obviously a lot bigger than her as well. So she's obviously a bit on her guard, and obviously in a place like London, typically people don't speak to each other that much. So it's about kind of just making her feel comfortable at the same time. But touching someone is not really that calibrated in a place like London during the daytime. Sure, at night time it's a bit different, or in a club or in a bar, perhaps a bit different, but you don't want to get in too close, in the daytime. There's no need for it, and there's a potential that she might feel a bit uncomfortable depending on who she is. But yeah, like it's not a requirement. That's the main thing. If you really want to do it because it really fits your personality, then sure, try it. But it's certainly not a requirement, and to say that it is just wrong, basically.
Try to establish sexual tension. See, I can't see what the eyes are doing, what his eyes are doing, or whether he's looking at it. Let me just preface that. Let me go back. Let me rewind. At my best, when I was in form and when I was into it, I would have tried to establish sexual tension straight away. I always do that. Always, always, always. I think you always should. And I think this is missing from virtually every in-field interaction I ever see.
Again, sexual tension is ideal to have in an interaction, but you don't need to do it right at the beginning. Right? It's not that important. It's not like a rule where, you must establish sexual tension right at the beginning, otherwise she's not going to be attracted to you. That's just not the case. You can establish it later on. I've had interactions where there's been very, very minimal sexual tension with the girl. She still comes out on the date, and then obviously on the date there's far more sexual tension, and it really creates that kind of more sexual vibe. It's not a requirement. It's not like you have to do it, otherwise it's a failed attempt to pick up the girl. It doesn't work like that. There's so much nuance to it. There's no rules like this, and that's one of the things that kind of annoys me a little bit when people analyze this stuff. It's just like they overanalyze and they kind of put forth their own agenda onto other people, when really there's no rule. There's no rule which is like you must touch her or you must create sexual tension in the first minute of the interaction. It doesn't work like that. It can be whatever you want. You're the one that controls or steers the direction of the conversation. You're the one that ultimately decides how the interaction unravels and how you want to go about doing it.
It's all sort of mental masturbation. I keep saying it, guys, but I'm sorry, but it is the only thing that matters. It's all sort of mental masturbation about what you're saying and so forth, and I'm being positive here, but there's no sign of sexual tension here at all. None from the girl. It's just sort of polite responses.
You can't expect, within literally the first 20 seconds for there to be any kind of sexual dynamic from the girl's end. I mean, she's literally just taking in the situation. I've literally just introduced her and starting off a conversation topic. You can't expect that much right in the beginning. Of course, sometimes you're going to get a girl who, you know, her eyes are beaming at you, she's smiling, she's laughing, you know, she's in a really, really kind of great, fantastic state of mind, she's giving you an amazing reaction. But this is really normal, and that's actually why I actually wanted to do this clip or show this clip in the first place, is because this is a very, very kind of normal interaction that you're going to encounter in a place like London, where the initial reaction is a little bit lukewarm. It's not like you're getting a super amazing reaction, and that's normal. It's just a case of ploughing on a little bit and seeing what happens.
You know, polite interaction. You know, he's not falling apart and he's not nervous, and that's great, you know, because I know what it's like to have anxiety, and I used to have that in the first 30 seconds myself, but I'd still, you know, try and get the sexual tension going. And if it's not there, I'd walk off within a minute or two, a minute and a half or so.
See, I think that's a bit of a mistake, because, you know, obviously, you know, it's good if you can do a bit of subtle flirting and that kind of thing during the daytime. You know, that's ideal, and that will give you a good indication of where the girl is and whether she's actually interested, and kind of getting your intent across as well. But you don't have to do it within the first minute or two. I mean, you can, sure, you can, but you don't have to. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't have to. It can come later. It can come, you know, 4 minutes in, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's just important to get your intent across at some point. But in the daytime, it should be subtle, you know. It doesn't need to be like massive. It's just little indications that, yes, I'm a guy, I'm speaking to you, you're a woman, I find you attractive, that kind of thing.
Accounting? Oh,
I'm an accountant.
okay, that's quite boring actually. You've got so much vibrant energy.
I decided to study that, but
Yeah, I mean, that's what the day gamers and the PUAs would call it, neg, you know, like it's quite boring. Whatever, you know, she can say that, but she doesn't really care what you think anyway, so not much point.
I wouldn't call that a neg, really. I'll just call that an opinion. It's okay to speak your mind. It's okay to give your honest opinion about something. You know, it's not like, oh no, you can't say that because it might offend her. The intent isn't to offend her, to spike attraction from her, because that's obviously some PUA bullshit, which I don't adhere to. Yeah, I don't see that as a neg, and I don't think most people would see that as a neg either. I mean, if you're going to be really sensitive about like something like that, then okay, maybe get offended, but like, you know, it's not an insult, you know, to call it something boring. In my opinion, it's not an insult. It's just an opinion. It's okay to find something boring. It's okay to say that. It's not like, oh no, I mustn't say that, she might get offended, you know. It's like, come on.
Anyway, incidental, really, not important. The big, you know, when you do a day game interaction, the big chunk thing is the sexual tension. You know, that's basically all that matters, especially in the first sort of 2 to 3 minutes. You know, they haven't got time to think, oh, this might be, you know, have these complex thoughts about what kind of person you might be, and make a quick judgment. And if you want to make that impression quickly, the best thing you can do is get the sexual tension going. And, you know, like I say, I see, the big thing that I see most day gamers avoiding is that very thing.
Well, that is a good point, that like first impressions do matter a lot with this stuff, and you know, the initial judgments are going to be made within the first like 10-20 seconds. That is true, and that is a good point. And so yeah, but like, you don't need to necessarily show your sexual intent that early. I mean, you're already kind of going in with a compliment. You're already, you know, you're already being ballsy in the fact that you've actually approached her. She needs a bit of time just to take in that situation, and kind of, you know, figure out, you know, what's actually happening. She needs a bit of time and space to figure it all out and actually, you know, feel comfortable in speaking to you. If you're too full on at the beginning, especially during the daytime in a city like London, for a lot of girls, they're just going to find it too much. It's just going to be too much for them. It's just going to put them off, you know. Yeah, I'm a massive advocate of having a bit of sexual tension, having a bit of flirting in the interaction, 100%. But A, it should be subtle, and B, it doesn't necessarily have to be right at the beginning. I mean, I've got other infields as well, you know, where I've done it right at the beginning. But it's not a rule, you know. It's not like you have to do it that way.
So, and I see that here as well.
But you just did it. I think it was probably because of the money, wasn't it?
Probably.
Yeah. You can be honest with me. If it was for the money, you could tell me.
I say that, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I say to her, you can be honest with me, there is a very, very kind of slight hint of flirting there. It's very subtle because it's almost like the kind of thing that might be said in like a relationship, but obviously we're not in a relationship, clearly. But it's building that kind of narrative with her. It's obviously meant tongue in cheek. I'm probably smiling when I say that. She's clearly smiling and laughing at the same time. She knows it's a joke. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about when I mention about subtle flirting. It's about, you know, making little references or building little narratives like that, which obviously the girl will understand because, you know, girls are very socially and emotionally intuitive, far more than us. And it doesn't need to be so like brazen, this sexual tension at the beginning. Just little statements like that can have a really quite big effect. And she knows what's going on. It's not like, oh, she doesn't know what I want or anything like that.
Yeah. But I think it's quite a boring job though, isn't it?
All day in front of the computer.
It's like that's similar to most jobs, but I think on that one it's especially boring because it's just numbers all on the screen all day and just.
I like it anyway what I do, but sometimes it's, I don't know, boring.
So, you know, she agrees with me there. I mean, she also says that it's boring. So, I mean, you know, she's not obviously taking it offensively. So, yeah, I mean, it's clearly not a neg.
So what is it about the eyes? You know, she looks very honest and she looks a bit self-deprecating. And then you have to think to yourself, well, I'm in London. She's in London. This is quite an inimical place. Inimical. You know, she's a young woman that's come to London, so she's very brave, you know. She's very brave. She's working in this job. And if you're saying it's boring, okay, that's one way of doing it. You can talk about a neg. But what you're dealing with here is probably an insecure woman in London in difficult economic times. And instead, you could just say that, you know, she looks honest. You could talk about the bravery of coming over. You could talk about that, you know, you could try and delve into that. And your sort of hook on that is your feelings about the kind of girl and your reading of the kind of girl that you're in front of, you know, like I say.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I could speak about that. But, you know, I could speak about a million other things, you know. It's like you don't. It's not like your conversation should cover a specific thing because there's a million different things you can speak about. If it just so happens that we're talking about her job, and that I happen to find it boring, that's a perfectly legitimate thing to speak about. There's no rules to this stuff. There's no rules like you must say this, you must not say this, you must avoid talking about that. It's whatever you want it to be, and that's the beauty of this. But it does annoy me a bit when people say, like, they kind of give you arbitrary rules about how you must structure your conversations. Like, oh yeah, at this point you must say this, or oh yeah, you should speak about this, or you should, oh, you know, you didn't mention this bit. It's like, you don't have to. There's no rules with this stuff. I mean, it's one human speaking to another human. It's a million different things you can speak about, a million different trajectories you can have in the conversation. Yeah, and that's the beauty of this stuff as well.
All day in front of the computer.
It's like that's similar to most jobs, but I think on that one it's.
Yeah, she's a very polite young lady, very brave. She's come over to London. She's working a job. She's doing her best. And since we left the EU, that's not so easy anymore, you know. So I'd be bonding on that, and I'd be bonding on that. You know, when I say you get the sexual tension, you do that. But you also bond, you have the empathy as well. It's called fractionation. You know, I talk about it in The Secret Society. That's what it's about. It's soft and hard at the same time, you see. And
that's the thing, this has been happening. He just obviously hasn't realised it. You know, he's probably someone who goes in a lot more brazen and far more explicit in his intentions. But, you know, if you're doing that in the daytime in London, it's just going to be too much for a lot of girls. And that's why I prefer to take more of a middle ground approach. Go in a bit more subtle, make some subtle references, and build some narratives that way. You know, don't go in so fucking hardcore. You don't need to.
But what I always used to find was that these day gamers, and this is why I really dislike day gamers so much, is that they just talk about themselves and they can't switch off. You know, nobody really wants to hear about themselves. You know, if I was talking, we're 18 minutes into this stream now, we would not have the massive numbers we've got right now watching. But I think You know, I think one thing that day gamers could do, it's just a prescription that I'm going to suggest, is that, you know, start your own YouTube channel and talk about things outside yourself and see how you get on. You know, it's one of the...
Well, actually, with this, I mean, a lot of the time guys don't speak enough about themselves. Oftentimes guys will just speak about the girl for like 5 minutes. It is actually good if you can speak about yourself a bit as well, because she can find out more about you. You know, she figures out who you are. You're not just like some entertainer on the street. You're actually a real person. She can actually think like, oh, he was a really cool, flirty, attractive guy, but I know nothing about him. Okay, now I know some stuff about him. He's actually cool, he's interesting. I'd like to know just a bit more about what he does, why he does it, that kind of thing. Yeah, most guys don't speak enough about themselves actually in their interactions. So yeah, maybe I overdid it perhaps a little bit in this interaction. I don't know how, I can't remember really, but yeah, it's good to find that balance, I think.
Especially boring because it's just numbers all on the screen all day and just...
I like it.
Yeah. Which part of Argentina is it? Is it like Buenos Aires?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go to Argentina.
Really?
I want to go.
You should. You should in the summer.
Yeah, I've been to Mexico. I was living in Mexico for like 5...
See, there we go. I want to go to Argentina. I was living in Mexico. I understand that it's easier to talk about yourself when...
But the thing is that it's not just talking about myself for the sake of talking about myself. It's actually myself talking about experiences which relate to something similar to what she might have experienced. So me talking about, you know, having been to Mexico, there's a bit of a Latino connection with her, so that's the reason why I'm bringing it up. I'm not just saying it like out of the blue, or as in saying it in kind of like a braggy sort of way, like, oh, by the way, I've been here, I've been there, look at me, aren't I great? You know, that's not what it's about. It's about, we're on a certain topic of conversation, there's a link. You know, she's from Argentina, I want to go to Argentina, I did go to Latin America before, this is me telling that stuff. It's just normal conversation, it's normal going from A to B in conversation. It's nothing complicated, it's completely natural, it's completely normal. You don't need to overanalyze it that much.
She's an Argentinian woman that's come to London. What does that say about her and so on, you know? So you can do that at the same time as funny little stories.
See, this I agree with. I believe that, yes, it's good to kind of cold read at the beginning because it allows for smooth transition into kind of deeper conversation based on kind of limited information. So if there's something you notice about her, then just kind of go with that at the beginning. That's a good way to do it. But yeah, like, and using that to kind of create narratives. You know, you don't need to talk about stories like, you know, stuff you've memorized. That stuff is just like PUA stuff. It's just not. It's not conducive to a natural conversation. You know, using certain scripted narratives that you already know about. It's dumb. If you're saying that stuff to every girl you're meeting, yeah, that's dumb. I mean, if it's just like you know, you remember a certain story and it's just come up at this moment, sure, that's natural. That's in the moment. That's completely cool and appropriate for the situation. But yeah, trying to kind of fall back on certain scripts and routines, it's not what I'm about.
That you can use habitually. Not same routines, but you can think of 3 or 4 stories, things that you can say, you know, what's different about London to where she's from, and have things that you can pull out, you know, versus just sort of talking about yourself.
You know, it's not about like, you know, trying to say the right things in order to get laid. It's about, you know, I'm me, you're you, I'm trying to connect with you, seeing if there is indeed a connection to be made, and just expressing myself naturally, but in the back of my mind, knowing that you know, I'm a man, that I find her attractive, she's a woman, so I'm going to try and flirt with her and that kind of thing. But ultimately, it's about, you know, not forcing a certain agenda upon her, just seeing if things naturally progress, and certainly not kind of having these stories that I pull out when I'm speaking to a woman. It's just not, it's not natural, it's weird. That's why the pickup stuff is just fucking weird, you know, and that's why it's got a bit of a bad rap. Yeah, it's not normal, it's not like, it's just not how a normal human would interact with another human.
5 months. And yeah, I want to go to South America, spend more time there, like Brazil, Colombia, Argentina.
Yeah, you should. And summer is beautiful.
You need to take me with you when you go back home. For now, it's too soon. We need to go on a few dates first, but maybe in the future. I don't know. See how it goes first.
Do you see? Look, okay. So what he did there, that was you know, that was a sort of flirty move, but you notice that it's not accompanied by any sort of actual raising the stakes. You know, there wasn't a step closer, there wasn't a touch, there's no discernible slowdown in the voice, there's no she's not looking directly into his eyes any more than she was before. It's just sort of it's all just very friendly. Do you see what I mean? This is what I mean about sexual tension or the lack of it. I don't know what to say.
But that's the thing, like during the daytime, you want to keep it at that level. You know, you don't need to step in and start touching her. I mean, that could actually be interpreted as being a bit creepy. You know, you don't need to do that stuff. You know, you could see at the start she was a little bit not 100% comfortable to speak. So, you know, trying to get her into that state of comfort is important to maintain throughout the conversation. You don't need to start touching her. It's not like, oh, I've just said something flirty, oh, let me step in a bit closer and touch her, and then all of a sudden, oh, she's all attracted now. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's in my opinion, it's way better to be subtle in the daytime and then do all this moving in closer and touching stuff when you're actually isolated with a girl in an appropriate venue, i.e., you know, a date in a bar or something. You know, you don't need to do that stuff. It's the same concept of like kissing a girl in the street. Yeah, it looks good on YouTube, it looks great, you get respect from nerds who watch it and that kind of thing, but in the end of the day, you know, most of the time the girl is not going to see you again if you do that, because she's going to just think that you're a bit of a player, she's going to regret it a bit, she's going to have like, you know, she's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that kind of thing. Yes, it's great in the moment, but it's just not worth it. It's not necessary. It's just, you know, she's not gonna lose attraction for you because you've said it's like a flirty thing, and then you haven't touched her. You know, do that stuff on the date 100%. You know, do it in an appropriate place, but you don't need to fucking do that stuff on the street. So unnecessary.
This is what I mean about sexual tension or the lack of it. I don't know what to say. I've said it so many times. It's just in every single infield that I see. It's the same fucking thing. It's lacking every single time.
I mean, the thing is, he strikes me as a guy who he probably goes in really, really hard with girls, and he probably gets blown out a lot with the girls that aren't interested, and screens them really, really hard and really, really quickly. You know, obviously you can do that if you want, but it's not necessary. I mean, you're going to miss out on girls who are going to feel uncomfortable with such a forward advance, and it's about finding that right balance, you know, especially during the daytime in London. You know, you've got to be a little bit subtle, I think. Yeah, like you don't need to go in so explicit, you don't need to be so hardcore with it. You know, leave it for the date. And the date, yeah, do it. Otherwise, yeah, not that necessary.
Yeah,
See how it goes. Yeah. This is like super weird, don't you think?
Yeah,
Like me coming up to you like this. I was afraid you were gonna like slap me or something. Like I didn't know what to expect from you. But I think Argentinians are quite friendly.
Yeah.
So luckily I am gonna emerge unscathed. Yeah.
Where are you from?
Where do you think?
Okay. You know, so he's chatting away. It's very pleasant. She says, "Where are you from?" And why say where do you think? You know, like there was a guy in the last stream. What's his name? Les or something. That was working with James Tusk. And he does the same thing. Where do you think? It's not alpha. It's not in making her invest. It's just fucking annoying. It's making her think, and you don't want to make anyone think, especially a woman, and especially when you're trying to get into her pants. And you know.
Okay. Like, if you ask someone where do you think when she asks you a question, like, it's not about trying to be alpha. It's not about trying to, you know, win her over or anything like that. It's not like some technique where all of a sudden she's going to be all attracted to you because you didn't give her a straight answer and you made her invest a little bit. That's all bullshit. That's not the reason. You know, if I say that to someone, it's literally just trying to be a little bit more playful rather than just giving a straight up direct answer, which can just be a bit flat and boring. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's just about engaging the other person a bit more. You know, getting them involved a bit, getting them in, you know, getting them to think. I mean, 100% I disagree with him. You like not making them want to think. Of course, you want to do that. You want them to engage. You want them to, you know, use their brain in the conversation. You know, it's just interesting to kind of have a little guess at where someone's from. It's the same reason why, if you ask a gal how old she is, more often than not, she's going to be like, guess. You know, because she is probably genuinely curious about what other people think about how old she is. But B, she's interested in what you might think as well, like what kind of vibe she's giving off. It's not like, I mean, girls do it as well. It's not like it's only guys who pick up girls do this stuff and it's like some technique. It's bullshit. It's like girls do the similar thing as well. It's human nature. You know, we're curious people. We express our curiosity onto other people. In fact, we project our curiosity onto other people, and it engages them as well. So it's just a bit of fun. You know, you don't need to overanalyze it that much.
Get her interested. It's an attraction killer. It's not making her invest. Look, you don't have the right to make. The only way you can get her to invest, basically, this is how it works. It's a seesaw. You don't make her invest by silly little games. You make her invest by sticking your dick into her, right? That's how it works. It's very brutal.
Yes, that is true. That's the ultimate, I guess, way to get her to invest. Sure, but we're talking about, you know, how to get to that point in the first place, and you know. I get that, like, you know, getting her to do a guessing game isn't gonna really, it's not really the best way for her to invest, and it needs to kind of, it has to come a bit more naturally. Like, she's got to want to ask a question, which she did actually ask before. Like, what she asked me, where are you from? That's a much better sign of investment than forcing the investment by getting her to guess. I mean, it's not about investment. Like I said, it's just a bit of fun. Just getting it a bit more playful. That's all it is to it.
It's very visceral, but that's how you get a woman to invest, by fucking her, right? And then she's invested, because she might make her pregnant and so forth. That's not investment by playing games and saying, what do you think, and turning on her. All that will do is make her flustered, irritated possibly, and just want to get away, you know?
Well, clearly that didn't happen, so, you know, that's a bit dramatic, I think.
It's not like a presidential debate where you're turning the frame, and it's about perception and what people think, and they're going to make it.
See, this is another thing that kind of annoys me a bit. It's like people overanalyze tiny little details like this so much, and it's just like it's like a, you know, from his perspective, it's like a rule. Don't ask her to guess where you are from. Just tell her straight up. It's just like, it's not a rule. If you want to say that thing, then say it. It's not like a rule where you can't say this or you can't say that. You know, like I said before, there's no rules to this stuff. It's however you want it to be. She's not thinking like, oh, what a bellend, he's making me guess, what a dickhead. She's not thinking that. She's just engaged. She's just going with it. She's going with the flow. It's just, it's not a big deal.
I'm not sure.
Take a guess.
England?
Take a guess, England. So the thing is, see, that's why it's retarded. And I'm nitpicking here. I am nitpicking. But the thing is she says England, and I'm willing to bet the daft cunt is from England. So why say take a fucking guess if you're from fucking England? If you're some kind of exotic Hebrew mix, or some kind of, you know, you're from, I don't know, out of Mongolia, or you're...
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is kind of stupid to get her to guess when it's fairly obvious that I am English and actually in England. But then why did she ask the question in the first place? I mean, a stupid question can get a stupid answer. Why not? But it's not about that when you're in the interaction. You know, it's not about, oh no, you asked me a stupid question. Oh, how, it's not about that. It's just about going with the flow, and just replying and making the conversation generally quite playful.
Stand 8 foot tall, you look like Xerxes. Fair enough. But if you're just some fucking pasty white English motherfucker, then why say that? When you're in bloody England, you stupid muppet! It's just stupid, it's a waste of time. Let's go back and look what it... Right, 3 minutes 22. Let's have a look at his boat race. Let's have a look. How could I possibly guess? He's a white man from fucking England! There's only 87.7% of...
Well, technically I am half Spanish as well, but okay.
That's in England. Now I know it's 50% in London. And that's another story. And don't make my white nationalist fucking...
Interaction of the day.
But look, he's a pasty white man from fucking England. So of course he's going to be from England. And what a genius guess from her. So by making her guess... You... Look at that look! That look says... Look, I'm trying to be charitable. I'm trying to be nice. But I'm about to walk away from this interaction. You are a literal retard.
She wasn't going to walk away just from that. I mean, come on. I mean, it would take a lot more for her to walk away. She does actually walk away later on, but not because of that.
Because he's just making me do weird stuff. And I'm not quite sure why he's here. Because he hasn't cracked onto me yet. And I don't know what he wants. Is he after a polite conversation? Does he want to meet my mother? Is he going to give me some money? Is he going to be my sponsor in London?
She's not stupid. She obviously knows what I want. She's obviously playing along. Even though it is true that she wasn't that attracted, it turns out she actually has a boyfriend. But that would happen a lot of the times. So a lot of the times you will get into a conversation with a girl and she won't be massively attracted to you, at least not initially. It might be for whatever reason, she's not available or whatever, or you're not her type, whatever. But she'll still continue to speak to you, if out of politeness or nothing else. But that's 100% a normal interaction with a stranger when you're doing cold approach in a big city. It's really, really normal. And that's why I wanted to show this, I don't want to just show the super, super amazing interactions or the girls when they react amazingly. I want to show the realities of this stuff, and often you're going to get something like this where she's a bit lukewarm at the beginning, she kind of opens up a little bit more later on, she's smiling a bit here and there, and this is quite a normal interaction, I would say.
What does he want? I don't know, let's find out what he wants.
Not in English. Because,
I think it's better in Spanish for me.
Shut it all.
English. I need to improve my English. Your English is already pretty good though.
No, I need to improve it.
Okay. Well.
Okay, that was a kiss of death there, looking at the phone. Looking at the phone.
I'm also half Spanish. As well. Yeah, you speak Spanish, so.
So he's doing the same thing again, he's talking about himself, I'm also half Spanish. So fucking what? Nobody gives a fuck, you stupid. Get on with it. Right, let's just move on. Is he gonna fuck her?
You must have like a really adventurous kind of...
Is he gonna fuck her? Let's poll these 18 people watching. Is he gonna fuck her, yes or no?
Is he gonna fuck her? Is he gonna fuck her? Is he gonna fuck her? That's not the... if that's your mindset with this stuff, your soul mindset, then it says a lot about, where you're coming from. My approach is like... It's not being so overly concerned about whether I'm going to fuck her or not. It's actually trying to see if I can establish a decent connection with her. And chances are I probably will fuck her if there is that connection, and eventually you are going to find a connection with a girl. With this girl, like I said, she has a boyfriend. I believe I tried to number close her, but she doesn't want to, which is fine, and that's normal. But, the attitude shouldn't be always about, are you going to fuck her? Are you going to fuck her? Or can I fuck her? It's just like... There's more to it than this. You're connecting with a person, and if you're so focused on the end result, you're not going to be present with the person, and it's just going to put a lot of people off. You're not going to find those amazing connections than if you can than if you actually were to be a bit more present with them.
because of the pandemic, just like during. So I was really bored of like in the UK because it was all like really shut down.
I was really bored in the UK like she is now because she's talking on the phone, you dumb motherfucker, look.
So
Oh, I was really bored in the UK. Yeah, just a second now. I'm just talking on the phone to my friend now. Just give me a second while you're waffling away. I was really bored in the UK. Oh, really? Oh, I'm talking on my fucking phone at the same time. You stupid dumb motherfucker. Right, let's carry on.
I don't think she's actually talking on the phone, she's just checking the phone, you know, because she's meeting friends probably. Yeah, it's like... Yeah, you know, girls are always going to be looking at their phones. They're always glued to their phones a lot of the time. So I wouldn't read too much into that, to be honest. It's normal. Even if a girl was actually like super interested and super engaged, don't be surprised if she's like checking her phone now and again in the interaction. It's not a signal of disinterest. It just means that she's got a life that she's living, and she's got things that she needs to do. She's got some people she needs to meet or something that she's doing. She could be waiting for an Uber or whatever, and she's got to check her Uber. So yeah, again, over-analysis really.
But I guarantee you, when I did my infields, you would not have... What is that? Fuck it. This just... I want to see this now. Let's have a look. Come on now. Right, 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. I would have concluded my Bisney 3 minutes in. That's all you need. 3 minutes. Get to the point. Are we going to sniff each other's asses? Are we going to fuck?
So that's another point I disagree on, really. I mean, okay, if you're like 3 minutes is clearly enough to like establish whether there's an interest there or not. She was giving mixed signals, like at the beginning, a little bit, you know, one-word answers, a little bit not amazing kind of facial reactions. But then she was engaging a bit more kind of throughout the conversation. So it was a bit mixed, this one. So yeah, at the end, it's perfectly reasonable to ask her for a number. Turns out she's got a boyfriend. That's absolutely fine, totally normal. But you know, if you're gonna like close every conversation after 3 minutes, I would say that's a bit of a mistake, and you're cutting yourself a bit short. You know. There's always more stuff to speak about. You know, you need a certain amount of time to do all the stuff that you ideally want to do in a conversation. You know, find out about each other, establish that comfort with each other, do the subtle kind of sexual tension stuff, or the flirting, all of that stuff. And just talk about certain topics to convey that you're an interesting person and potentially a funny person, charismatic person. You know, if you're cutting yourself short in doing like 3 minute conversations every time, I would say that's a bit of a mistake. You know, aim for like 5 minutes, ideally even longer, but ideally even more ideally is don't even keep track of time, just keep talking, be present in the moment. Don't be thinking like, oh, it's 3 minutes now, or it's 5 minutes now, time's up now, okay, let me do a number close now. No, just keep going, just be present in the moment, just revel in the moment with the girl, and I promise you, you'll have the best conversations that way.
The guy's just... It's not even wasted. And I know what they say. Are you making a girl's day? Yeah, fuck off, you're making a girl's day. Fuck them making a girl's day. Come on, bullshit. What's a bunch of fucking nonsense? Yeah, you're gonna trudge around Warsaw in the middle of October or November in fucking -3. I was in Warsaw, I lived literally in Warsaw. Sometimes it got to -20. I love making a girl's day. Yeah, the -20. Walking around making girl's day. Yeah, fuck off, you're making a girl's day. First of all, she wants to get away because it's freezing cold.
Okay. I mean, okay, London isn't exactly -20, is it? I mean, let's be honest here. Yeah, you are making a girl's day. You know, it's win-win when you do this stuff, and let's say you get rejected or whatever. It's win-win. You feel good for doing it. She feels good for you having done it. It's still fantastic to provide value to people and to the world, and yeah, connect with people and just meet people, that kind of thing. You never know what's going to happen with this stuff, and that's the beauty of it. It's not about always having to have that end goal and being so goal orientated. Oh, I must get laid, otherwise it's a waste of time. You know, that's kind of the angle it seems like this guy is coming at it from. And I know a lot of guys are coming at it from that angle. And yes, it's about finding that balance. You know, yes, it's nice to get laid, but if that's your sole intention, or if that's the only reason you're doing it, you know, you're going to be disappointed a lot of the time. You're going to be frustrated. It's going to be a pretty frustrating experience. But if you don't care about that so much, you're not so fixated on that, and you're able to actually be present in the moment, that stuff is going to happen more frequently, inevitably. But you're also going to enjoy the entire process. You're going to enjoy the whole journey of doing this stuff. And you're just going to, you're going to enjoy it more.
Trying to, you know.
See, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like a bit of a comedy show. I don't see the guy trying to establish any sexual tension here at all. Like, what can I say? What can I say, guys? That's the missing element. By the way, why the hell does nobody do this? Why don't you bother? You can do it in a very cheap.
I mean, the sexual tension is there. He just hasn't noticed it. That's the thing. Like I said, I mean, he's probably someone who's going into his interactions really brazen, really polarizing, really full on, and like, okay, if you're just trying to get laid and that's it, and you're primarily doing it sort of more in the evening or night time, then sure, fine, whatever. But you know, approaching girls in the daytime in London, going in a bit more subtle is 100% better. If you're actually wanting to establish a connection with a girl, and actually you're more serious about actually trying to meet up with them again later at another point. And I think that's really the difference here. Like, this is really like telling of where he's coming from, because yeah, he spent a lot of time doing night game, going into bars and clubs where inherently the atmosphere is way more seductive and inherently a bit more sexual, and you can escalate more quickly. But you know, trying to transfer that directly onto the streets is just really dumb. In a lot of cases, it's just going to make the girl uncomfortable. Of course, there's going to be a tiny minority who would love, you know, a girl who's going to be really into it and is going to love it. But the majority are just not. You know, they're just not. You know, if you're like actually serious about wanting to meet girls again after speaking to them on the street, then there needs to be that right balance of subtle sexual intent, but also enough comfort to the point where, you know, she looks back and thinks, yeah, he was a cool, calibrated guy. I find him attractive, but yeah, he was actually cool and calibrated, and I can actually see myself actually hanging out with this guy again. I suspect this guy, you know, he's probably had a lot of success in clubs and bars and stuff back in the day, where you can be a lot more forward and you can escalate far more quickly and go all the way in a shorter space of time. But you know, majority of the time when you approach a girl during the daytime, you're gonna be, you're gonna be, or she's gonna be like going somewhere or doing something, waiting for someone, meeting someone, whatever. And so you don't have that opportunity to kind of go on an instant date and then go all the way with her. You know, sometimes you can, which is great, but most of the time you're just not, because you know, people are outside, they're doing something, and so you have to have that impression on them, create a positive impression on them, and have it to the point where they actually feel like they want to see you again. And if you're like really kind of pushy and really kind of sexual at the beginning, it's just going to put them off, and it really does decrease your chances of actually meeting up with them again later, because you just haven't found that right balance. And that kind of really summarizes this, I think. You know, everyone's got kind of different perspectives on this stuff, and different styles, different approaches. And you know, one thing is going to resonate with one person and something else is going to resonate with another person. That's absolutely fine. But it does annoy me a little bit when people kind of dictate about what things should be or how things should be according to their own interpretations. So saying stuff like, oh, don't ask, you know, guess her or get her to guess like where you're from. It's just dumb. It's just silly, like imposing a rule like that, if that's what he's saying. Just because it's a little bit annoying as a viewer to listen to that or to watch that, it doesn't mean that like it's a bad thing to do when you're actually in conversation with a girl. most of the time it's going to create a more fun environment for both of you. And this is what I'm talking about. There's just different perspectives with this stuff, and some stuff is going to resonate with some people, some of it isn't going to resonate with others, and that's absolutely fine. And that's why there's different guys doing this stuff. There's something for everyone when it comes to this. There's a lot of dating guys out there, and there's something for everyone at the end of the day. And some stuff's going to resonate with one person, not so much with another person, and that's absolutely fine. So yeah, like I say, this isn't supposed to be a video like, reacting to drama or being baited into having some kind of drama fest with someone. It's not about that. It's just about getting my point of view across and just focusing on technical points of view, I guess.
Cheers for watching. If you'd be interested in one-to-one coaching with me where we'll go out in public and work on you approaching girls, or more generally with your social confidence, please visit my website ed-game.com.